Welcome to the Immigrantinlaw channel. This is the second part of the video about the real difficulties immigrants face after obtaining EU citizenship. In the first part, we have already talked about language barrier, bureaucracy, job search, and social isolation. Today, equally important topics that often remain in the shadows, but directly affect the adaptation, cultural differences, adaptation of the whole family, and unexpected financial difficulties. If you are planning a move, be sure to watch to the end. This knowledge will help you go through the journey more calmly and confidently. When we talk about moving to another country, most often we think about language, documents, housing, jobs, but one of the most subtle and unexpected difficulties is the difference in cultural norms. And not in national holidays or cuisine, but in everyday, informal things, how people greet each other, how they perceive time, how they resolve conflicts, how they raise their children. What exactly is causing the discomfort? Communication style. In the countries of Northern and Western Europe, people speak with restraint, without vivid emotions. What seems cold and indifferent to a native of Eastern Europe is in fact just a cultural norm. In Slovenia or Bulgaria, on the contrary, people may seem more direct, and this too requires adaptation, especially if you are used to diplomatic language. Attitude towards time. In many EU countries, punctuality is a sign of respect. Being even 5 minutes late can be perceived as disrespectful. This is especially important in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. But for example, in southern countries, Italy, Spain, Greece, the attitude to time is more flexible. This difference is especially noticeable at work and in official contexts. Somewhere the main thing is the deadline and the result, and somewhere the process and attitude, personal space and physical boundaries. In some countries, it is considered unacceptable to touch the interlocutor during a conversation, to come too close, to ask personal questions. Even phrases like, "Are you married?" or "How much do you earn?" can cause awkwardness. It may be perceived as coldness, but it's actually respect for personal boundaries. Differences in approaches to parenting. In many European countries, children are raised to be independent from an early age. It is normal for a 10-year-old child to go to school on his own, cook his own food, or say no to adults. For many parents, this may be unusual and even alarming, but it is important to realize it is part of a different value system in which children grow and develop: openness and closedness. Some clients said that in the first months after moving to Europe, they felt that they were avoided. Neighbors do not say hello, colleagues do not support the conversation. But go a little deeper and you notice that it just takes more time to gain trust. In some countries, people don't try to become friends right away, but if you get into their circle, these ties will be very strong and reliable. How does an immigrant feel? It's like I'm always in the wrong place. They don't get my jokes. I have to hold myself back. I try to be like them, but I still feel like an outsider. And that's okay. Because cultural adaptation is the longest and most imperceptible process. It does not happen in 1 month. It's not an exam. It's a journey. What helps? Observation and analysis. Watch how the locals behave, how they say hello, how they construct phrases, how they react in conflict situations. Gradually, you will start to read the context and feel more confident. Books and podcasts about the culture of the country. There are tons of great resources. The culture map, watching the English, local blogs, immigrant channels. This gives you not only an understanding but also an emotional acceptance of the differences. Socializing with locals. The more you socialize with people of a different culture, the faster you will adapt. Ask, inquire, don't be afraid to ask questions. Why do you do it this way? Would it be rude if I did it differently? People appreciate genuine interest and are often happy to explain their traditions. Maintain your identity. Adaptation isn't about losing yourself. It's about flexibility. You can respect and embrace a new culture while maintaining your values. And it's often this combination that makes a person stronger and more interesting. Don't see cultural differences as better or worse. They are just different. Once you let go of the idea of comparing, there will be inner comfort. And then the new culture ceases to be foreign and becomes simply part of your new life. Cultural differences are not a barrier, but an opportunity to grow. Yes, you will have to adjust somewhere you will have to readjust. But the sooner you get involved in the process of observation and dialogue, the sooner you will feel confident and organic in the new society. Immigration is a challenge not just for one person, but for the whole family. Very often it happens like this. Formally, everyone has moved to a new country together, but each family member adapts in his or her own way, and not always synchronously. What families complain about after moving? The children are withdrawn and do not want to go to school. One spouse cannot find a job and feels on the margins. Parents are stressed and tired from household tasks and paperwork. Everyone feels like we're together but apart. The problem is that everyone faces their own set of challenges, and in doing so often fails to support others because they themselves are at the limit. What the children experience? At first glance, it is easier for them. They learn the language faster, they make friends faster, they settle into the new culture faster. But in reality, it is often children who experience deep inner stress, which is not always immediately visible. Ignorance of language can cause fear of school, lessons, teachers. Fear of being misunderstood or ridiculed inhibits the desire to speak. Some children become cranky, refuse to go to school, become aggressive, and this is often interpreted as behavior, even though it is an alarm signal. Solutions: gradual adaptation. You can start with immigrant-friendly schools with language assistance. Involve the child in clubs and activities. It is an informal environment where it is easier to socialize. Support at home. Do not criticize for mistakes, do not pressure, but praise for small steps. This creates a sense of security. How adults, especially spouses, feel: one spouse may go straight to work and immerse themselves in society. The other may stay at home, with children or without a clear goal. This causes disequilibrium. One develops, the other gets stuck. Often conflicts arise because of fatigue, misunderstandings, guilt, or resentment. Even strong couples can go through a crisis. What helps? Spell out expectations in advance. Who and how do you divide responsibilities? Who looks for work? Who runs the household? Who takes care of the children? Set aside personal space for everyone, even an hour a day for yourself. Walking, sports, studying helps you recover. Share small victories together. For example, today the whole family got a library card, or we visited the local market and figured out how it works. This brings us closer together and creates a sense of, we can do this. If you have elderly parents, their adjustment is the most difficult. Language is more difficult. Communication is minimal. The feeling of being needed is jeopardized. It is important not to isolate them from local life. Involve them in everyday activities. Find age-appropriate activities, outings, clubs, courses. Make them feel important. For example, taking care of grandchildren, cooking traditional meals, passing on family traditions. Family is your mainstay, but it's also your risk zone. During the adaptation period, it is very important not to expect that everything will work by itself. Adaptation requires conscious work on communication, routine, emotional support. What works for sure? Keep a joint calendar to mark important adaptation events. Registration, first visit to the clinic, meeting at school. This gives a sense of control. Have weekly family debriefs. What worked, what didn't, who is having a hard time, without blame, with acceptance. Seek a social circle for the whole family. Family clubs, picnics, activities from local communities. If there are other immigrant families, friendship with them can be a real support. Family adaptation is not a background process. It is the foundation of your new life. The more attentive you are to the internal climate in your family, the more stable and confident you will be in your new country. Don't forget, moving is not the end of stability, but the beginning of a new team. And the main thing is to go through this journey together. When you plan a move, especially if you do it consciously and with legal support, it seems that everything is calculated. Housing costs, food, taxes, insurance, utilities. You have prepared a budget for several months in advance, and you are sure that everything is under control. But reality shows that financial surprises are one of the most common causes of stress after a move, which most often comes as a surprise. Renting accommodation is more expensive than expected. For example, in Poland or Romania you can find budget options, but decent apartments in big cities are already European prices. In addition, many owners ask for payment for several months in advance plus deposit. That is, even before you move in, you can leave up to 4-5 monthly sums. Deposit and hidden costs. In addition to rent, it is often necessary to pay for the services of a realtor. In some countries, up to 100% of the monthly cost of housing, property insurance, registration at the address, internet connection. These costs are rarely considered in advance. Medical expenses before insurance is activated. Even if you are eligible for medical care, until you go through the formalities, you pay everything out of pocket. One doctor's appointment can cost 40-100 euros. Tests are even more expensive. And in emergency cases, the bill can reach thousands. Transportation and travel. In some countries, a pass for public transportation costs 50-100 euros per month. And if you are counting on a private car, you are waiting for taxes on transportation, insurance, inspection, parking. Many clients say, we thought we would save money, but the costs have gone up. Children's and school expenses. Yes, education is free, but uniforms, food, trips, stationery, circles, all this is paid for. And if a child does not know the language, often paid help is required. Tutors, preparatory courses, adaptation classes. The difference in prices for food and household trifles. Some products can be 2-3 times more expensive than in your country. For example, medicines without insurance, baby food, household chemicals. This is not a catastrophe, but it is an unpleasant surprise, especially in the first months, when income is not yet available or unstable. Common mistakes: plan your budget on a shoestring without a safety cushion, not taking into account seasonal fluctuations, for example, renting in the fall and summer, different prices, hoping for quick income or work from the first month. Focus on minimum expenses, not including force majeure. What helps you cope? Swings for at least 6 months. This is a realistic period of time, during which the family goes through basic adaptation, finds a place to live, resolves issues with documents, and starts to earn a stable income. It is desirable to have a reserve for rent, food, insurance, and unforeseen expenses. Detailed budgeting. Make a table with real prices in a particular city, not the national average, but for the place you are traveling to. This should include rent, including deposit, utilities, food, transportation, communication and internet, medical, school, children, clothing, things. Planning for incremental spending. You don't have to buy everything at once. Some expenses can be postponed. Furniture, appliances, courses. It's important to understand where the must-haves are and where the wants are. Search for social and local programs. Many countries have support for new citizens, tax breaks, discounts for families with children, free courses, medical assistance in emergency situations. You just need to know where to turn. Advice from a financial advisor. If you are planning to run a business, invest or buy real estate, be sure to consult a local specialist. EU financial legislation may be very different from what you are used to. Financial instability is one of the biggest anxiety triggers after moving. It is therefore important not to compare spending to your old life. Don't blame yourself for overspending. Accept it as part of the transition. After 6-12 months, most people adapt to the new conditions, reach a stable income and build a balanced budget. The main thing is to live peacefully until then. Financial difficulties after a move are not a miscalculation, but a normal part of the process. The sooner you accept this reality and start acting consciously, the easier it will be to survive the first year of adaptation. Prepare yourself and you will succeed. Immigration is not just a change of address. It is a process of internal and external reformatting. It is not always easy, but it is absolutely surmountable. The main thing is not to shut yourself off, not to be afraid to ask for help, to seek information and to learn. We, as an immigration company, not only help you to obtain citizenship, but also accompany you in the first important steps after it. If you are on the verge of moving, let this video be a reminder to you. There are difficulties, but there are also solutions. It all depends on your preparation and willingness to change. If you have questions or would like to discuss your path to citizenship and adaptation, leave a request for a free consultation with Immigrantinlaw lawyers. We will find the best relocation strategy for you, prepare all the necessary documents, explain the nuances of the law in detail, and answer all your questions. Want to learn more or start the process today? Contact us. All contacts are listed in the description below this video. We are here to help you take a confident step towards a new life. Give us a like, subscribe to the channel and ask your questions in the comments. I will be happy to answer them. Discover a world of opportunities with Immigrantinlaw.